So happy New Year's, folks. At this time of the calendar year, often we can get reflective and hopeful, reflective on the victories, the ups and downs, anything in the last year that you look and say, those are moments that I want to highlight so I remember, which gives us hope. Say, what could 2023 be like? What could this next year create for us to anticipate and look forward to? So we want to take a moment to be able to name three highlights, points to remember from 2022, and then step into what are three things that we're looking forward to in 2023. And as always, because it wouldn't be folks, we didn't give you a book to read, you'll get two book recommendations because you know you want to start your reading list now.
So, Glenn, man, let's jump into what we're celebrating from 2022, man. What's the first thing that you're celebrating?
The first thing I'm celebrating is that we named things out of the community that we desired to see, and we actually executed on them. Whether it was a couple of the series we had that came directly out of the community's questioning, or the mental health check-ins, that we had that moment of saying, we see a need, we see a possibility, and we made it real.
Oh, that's awesome, man. Like the first thing I'm celebrating is I loved our focus on telling and listening to stories from women in the Bible. Like when we had a handful of series that allowed us to sit in that space, to listen from that space, but also just to highlight stories that reality is in the tradition I grew up in just weren't told. And to be able to honor those stories, but then also reframe them and say, here's where they're lacking. Like here's where the Bible doesn't tell the story well. And here's where the Bible comes from a patriarchal lens, and just to be able to actually critique that as a community, because I think it's important for us to be able to find our way forward, is to be actually able to name the good and the bad of where we're coming from.
And that brings me into the second thing I was really excited about, in a similar vein as being able to highlight the powerful women in the text, even sometimes having to give it a counter reading to make it impactful for today, is the series we did titled, Does the Church Have a Future? Because I've been working with churches for 20 years. And what I can say in most places that I've been around is we were always taught that if you're any form of leadership or if you speak up in the church, you need to toe the party line. And so you kind of develop this a duplicitous self. You have the public statement self and the private, what do you think? And in asking the question, does the church have a future? We got to name some of our places of doubt, our places of concern, our places of trauma, but also some moments of reconstruction, hope, and future, that we didn't have to just be one. We didn't have a single voice, a single lens. It was actually in a shared community, communal experience of trauma and hope.
And the second thing that I loved was our ability to actually get together in a few different events and meetups where we're actually able to get together in person. But I also like within that, I love the fact that we're able to create these as hybrid spaces that actually try to create space and include the whole community. I think it really gave us an imagination for where we can go in the future.
And for me, my third was the White Elephant Gift Exchange. Even though this time, due to life circumstance, Brittany and I didn't get to go do it in person, but I love random holiday nonsense. And you do not get more nonsensical and kind of community building than stealing each other's gifts. Because it's those moments that, one, you get to see people's reactions in person, and two, you get to steal each other's gifts. That just makes it fun.
Nothing says Christmas like theft. All right. And my third one, it's actually something that was separate from FOS, but it's still rooted in our commitment as a community to creating spaces for all voices, right? And so that was my work with Voices Canada and seeing this organization officially launched. And although it's something that's separate from FOS, I believe it's something that is deeply connected to the vision of FOS. And I would love to see how these things actually have synergy in the future.
You know what? It wouldn't be us if we didn't throw in bonus content. So my number 4 was Carl and I being able to go to the Parish Collective Conference and share some of the vision and the views of what FOS is, because it resonated with some of the people there in such a way they came up afterward and said, we thank you for being able to the struggle of what it is to try to do church during the pandemic. And they said it gave them an avenue of hope of how they could start reimagining in their own local context
And that brings us to what we're excited about for 2023. Glenn, man, why don't you kick us off?
One of the first things I'm excited about is we've had a few people in our town hall meeting say that we will volunteer to be representatives of folks, that if people come through the online channels, reach out, we can say, we have a person in your area. Grab a drink, grab a coffee, do a Zoom call. And I'm excited to see that because growth, including more voices, is how we develop the diverse conversation that we're striving for. And this next year, we'll have a chance to be able to say, like, we had an idea, we had a hope for how we could actually represent well in different areas. Now let's execute it so we can see what new life struggle and voices we can add.
My first one is actually pretty similar. Is I'm excited about seeing our community grow and flourish as we imagine and enact new spaces in FOS that include in person and online as well, right? And so we have some different ideas and different things coming up, and I'm excited just to to go through the rounds of experimentation, but also seeing the things that work and the things that cause life for our community.
Number two for me is I'm excited about these hybrid spaces that we got to do a few last year, but we're looking at making those part of the normal rhythm of FOS. So the next one is going to be the Lent season, to where we get to come together in Surrey, Canada, and do the hybrid again, because that is where we're hoping the future is. So this next year is going to be experimentation. We're going to see what works, what doesn't, so we can create that future space together.
And it's interesting. Like there's a lot of overlap, I think, in our what we're excited about for 2023, because mine flows out of the Lenten season as well. But it's actually bringing back our Holy Saturday event, Reflections on the Occupied Tomb. Like as an Enneagram 4, as someone who like who knows that morose is my happy place. Reflections on the Occupied Tomb has been one of my favorite events that we've ever done at FOS, and so I'm really excited to be able to bring that back in 2023.
Yeah, like your love of the morose, like you sit in Holy Saturday, like resurrection sucks. This is the good day. This is the day Jesus is dead. That's so hopeful.
It is hopeful, man. But without death, there's no resurrection, man.
That's true, but I don't think you ever rush towards resurrection. Like, let's not get there yet. Come on, we still got 3 hours of death. Um, so, the third thing that I'm looking forward to this next year is we've talked about inclusion of all people, creating that open space, that the table of Christ is not ours, it's Christ. So we just get to be those good guests that invite people in and hold space for diversity. I want to see that represented more. So this is more of a distant hope than one I can name and say it'll happen on Tuesday in October. But being able to include different voices from different racialized people saying, here's my experience of Christianity and location, across the LGBTQ as fully represented within the community, say, here's how we've come. Because one of the most beautiful things I was ever impacted by was a gay priest writing on communion saying, here's how we can understand passion as a sacrament and the ability to be fruitful and multiply something beyond just birth, but what cultivates life. And we won't get those kind of insights, the different ways of seeing, without full representation within the community. So that's what I'm looking forward to, is some people coming in that we get that full, rich diversity, separate lenses, and representation, that we create together something that's more mosaic than a monolithic single voice.
Yeah, man. The last thing that I'm excited about for this new year, man, is starting like the new worship music initiative for our community. And it was really awesome to actually close out the year with Monavoy and Andy recording a few pieces. One that it was a Christmas carol that we all know and love, O Come, Emmanuel. But then also to know that they recorded a couple other pieces that we're going to get to explore and sit with as a community in the future, but also knowing that like Johnny Tobin and Monavoy and Andy, they're all like they're dreaming of more ways that we could actually begin to incorporate worship music back into our liturgical rhythm as a community. And so I'm actually excited for that. It's not even that I love worship music so much, but I love the creative endeavors that we get to engage in as a community. And I love to be able to see other people like lean into their passion and their gifting in ways that bless the community, especially in ways that the community is named that they miss. And so, over COVID, that was one of the things that we missed as a community, and being able to lean back into that is something that I'm super excited about. And so, with that, again, it wouldn't be us if we didn't have some book recommendations for you. So, Glenn, man, what's your favorite book from 2022, or at least the book you want to recommend to the community, man?
Yeah, I'll go with the book I want to recommend just because I tend to be nerdy, and I vet books I recommend through my wife, who sometimes says, "That's so strange, esoteric, and niche. Nobody cares." So I'm going to go with one of the ones she said people would care. And with that, after Jesus, before Christianity, a historical exploration of the first 2 centuries of the Jesus movement. It's an amazing book, not for all the answers it gives you, but it asks some very provocative and explorative questions. It helps us try to name the reality that when we say Christian, sometimes we project anachronistically, we project our understanding of what Christian means now throughout all time. Well, those first 2 centuries was a matter of reconstruction. It was a matter of a Jewish sect breaking apart, trying to say, how do we now live in light of the Christ event? And so they wouldn't have a fully formed understanding of Christian. They wouldn't be able to say, like, we know that to be Christian means A, B, and C. They're developing, they're forming, they're writing, they're experimenting. And this book brings it to the forefront in a very, very accessible way. So you can enter into some of that dialogue. And they don't present like have to agree. They ask provocative questions and give you some historical background so that you can start trying to write your own answer.
Mhm. Yeah, that was an amazing book. It's one of my favorite books as well. And I just even love the notion that the Jesus movements start as hundreds of movements, and that it's actually the movement towards trying to create a dominant theology that actually kind of disrupts and ruins what it meant to follow Jesus. So I just love that fact as someone who loves that notion of provocation and disruption. That made it one of my favorite books as well, man. But my book recommendation for 2022 is Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Wall Kimmerer. And the reason I recommend that is I think this idea that I think it's connected to even where we're wanting to explore as a community in the future. It's like the notion of land and place, and that our indigenous brothers and sisters are able to actually help us learn to imagine place in ways that we can't imagine as settlers. Right. And so there's an invitation to learn from the wisdom of our elders, and that all of creation is our elders. And those are some of like the biggest points from the book that I really loved, that it was an invitation to learn. It was an invitation to listen. And it was an invitation for us to be able to learn how to inhabit space, not as colonizing, but as co-inhabitants with all of creation. And so that was something for me that was really beautiful, to be able to imagine a future that way. And kind of as Glenn did in the first one, it wouldn't be us if we didn't have like random extra things that we want to throw out. So I just have one other book recommendation that I want to throw out there from 2022. It's my friend and fellow collaborator from Voices Canada, Heather Beamish's first book, Homecoming. It's a wonderfully provocative and beautifully written collection of poetry. And so definitely go out and purchase that book. If you only purchase one book, purchase that book, because it means a lot to support just POC voices, especially in Canada here.
And to push it a step farther for that book of poetry, because I have it as well, is one, if we want to see art within Christianity, good art, and diverse voices, they need support. So I bought a few extra volumes to be able to hand out to people. She's writing from somebody who was framed in the conversations of a conservative Christianity, that she's come to some point of saying that story doesn't work for me anymore, but she hasn't given up on the faith. This book is part of her reconstructive journey that she makes very raw, very vulnerable. You feel like she's writing the lines next to you about saying, what could a more beautiful way forward be?
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. And so with that, yeah, that's mine and Glenn's what we're celebrating from 2022, what we're excited about for 2023. And we would love to actually hear what you're celebrating from 2022. What are your top 3 moments from 2022 that you were excited about, that you celebrated and you want to celebrate, and you want us as a community to celebrate with you? And then what are you excited about for 2023? We want to come alongside you and be able to celebrate that as well. And I think it's one of those things that as a community, we want to be known for what we celebrate, right? Because what we celebrate says a lot about who we are as a community, and we want to celebrate each other. We want to celebrate everything that is good and beautiful that is happening in the world around us, and that includes you. So let us know what's happening for your celebration for 2022 and your excitement for 2023.